Hello and welcome to this podcast with Shakti Tracey. So here's what I'm imagining, Shakti, and that is that there's a single mum out there who's maybe just left her relationship or just been left, and she feels maybe like she's got not much more than the phone in her hand, desperately searching for a signal that things will be all right. And I want this conversation to be that signal to her that if she trusts herself, leans in, gets curious, and carries on, she's on the verge of a life that she probably hasn't even dared to dream of yet. So I've invited Shakti Tracey to speak to us today because she is a phenomenal woman and a single mum who's really dived in and done the work. So I first met Shakti on a business course with Lisa Bean in probably about 2019, maybe 2018. And we've been connected ever since. When I asked Shakti who she would like this conversation to help, she said single mums who may feel that they are starting from scratch financially and emotionally, to give them some inspiration so they can rise from the ashes so much stronger than ever before. So thank you so much for coming to speak to us today, Shakti. And I wonder if we could begin with you telling us a little bit about the journey, the very beginning bit of the journey of you becoming a single mum, which I know was kind of way back when, and the early years of that journey.
Thank you, Claire. It actually really makes us feel quite tearful just actually hearing what you said, about that message going out. Because I mean, it was 10 years ago now that I had been with the kids' dad for 15 years. I thought it was really stable. I mean, we had difficulties, but it ended very suddenly. And yeah, for me, it just felt like I was homeschooling at the time. I grew up in an abusive household myself, so that I'd created this loving, family and safety place for my kids was just everything to me. And I put so much energy into it. And when he did leave, it was like my life got torn apart. It really did. And it was this like really having to build up from absolute scratch, emotionally, financially. I wasn't working, but I did run a women's group from home, but I had to move house, so I lost that even. Moved to a little flat. I had no property. We weren't married. There was no financial security. I had never worked for 10 years. So I didn't even have any references to go and get a job at the co-op, and so it was, it just felt like my self-esteem was completely rocked. And financially, I just felt absolute rock bottom. Really, really the most difficult time in life. And then all of a sudden as well, I found I was living by myself with two children. I'd never lived by myself before. And then I'm doing this, plus looking after two young children, a 3-year-old and a 10-year-old, at the time, and trying to support them, trying to homeschool still, which I did for a year, but, then they went into school. But the biggest thing for me was I felt like I'd failed at everything, but there was a power in that as well. It was like, actually, if I failed at everything, then I've got nothing else to lose. I've got absolutely nothing else to lose. So when I had to, go to the job centre and, apply for all the benefit system, which also is like a horrible thing that rocks your self-esteem and you just get made to feel like, terrible as well. But there was just like, okay, I'm going to build something. I'm going to at least give my dreams a try. And it was that tiny glimmer of hope. And because I had been running the women's groups before, and I had also trained in like some alternative therapies and done energy healing in the past, even though I was completely broken myself, it was just like, okay, that is where I'm going to start from. And I got a little job, self-employed. My first thing was at a local community centre. It was a wellbeing centre that offered cheap therapies for people. So I literally had one client, and it was a £15 massage, and I used to have to pay £5 for room hire, £5 for the metro fares to get there. But I did that for about a year. But at the same time, that was the foundation, and that was like what I needed just to be getting out and to start to build. I mean, it's different now, you know, because of the universal credit system. You only get a year to actually get your business like financially viable. But it was like, you know, took me that long just even to get that financial stability and that like confidence to start going. But then when I did start getting the confidence, and also I had my own money, because I had, you know, even if it was from the benefit system, that was financial independence for me. It was like, okay, I have got more money, so I was able to invest in doing more training. So I did my breathwork training, I did shamanic training, I went out, started leading workshops. So it was a very, very slow journey of healing myself, and also want to share the things that had helped me with my community, with people, and then lockdown happened and everything just went. So I built up all these community spaces. I was doing all these one-to-one healings. But at the same time, this is where we actually met with Lisa Beans. I just had signed up with her thing. And so it was like, okay, let's get the business online. And that for me was, you know, I went from leading workshops with, you know, breathwork workshops with 6 people in Newcastle, once a month, 6 people, because nobody had heard of it at the time. And then, you know, my first workshop online had like 150 people. So it was like, really big growth. But at the same time, I think I was coming out of another relationship there that was a really difficult one. And so there was lots, you know, my life starting to fall to pieces again there. But yeah, but there was also a clear pathway of growth, and I joined breathing space, became a teacher, started teaching the program, and then created my own training, which is about, you know, support, because what I saw as well was I was training people and then people were still finding it difficult to charge, you know, and ask for money, because there was so much, you know, I have so much stuff, you know, caught up in money. But then, you know, I created my own program to support people with that as well. So I feel like I'm in a really good place in myself, where actually, even though it was the worst thing that happened, it was actually the best thing. It was the best thing that happened, because I had a space to grow. And I think once you do get to that place, and I don't know if you found this as well, like this, the transition bit's really hard, but once you get to that place where you are happy single, I feel like it's the most hidden secret. Well, apart from growing old, I think people don't tell you how good that is as well. But being single is just like, it blows my mind, like how amazing it is. And, you know, there's sometimes I just wake up in the morning, I think, oh my God, I can do whatever I want. And I haven't got somebody, you know, criticizing us or making us feel a bit less than, or I'm not doing enough. It's just like, I can literally do whatever I want. And I just think it's the most, you know, amazing thing. But, you know, the transition bit's the hard bit as well, you know.
I know, and both of us here are looking at maybe a 10-year transition in that kind of journey, because like you, I've also realized, there's something about, you know, I know that there are relationships where you do not have to compromise core parts of yourself in order to be in that relationship. And that actually is the kind of relationship that I certainly, you know, would invite into my life. But at this point, it's like nothing less, you know, nothing less than that, nothing where I've realized recently that quite a lot of the narrative in a lot of my relationships across my life has been people trying to convince me to compromise. And I've, you know, probably built up somewhat the self-image of somebody who's very stubborn and won't compromise, and that's kind of a flaw in me. But actually, as I'm looking at it now, I think to myself, thank goodness I didn't compromise, because look what's available to us if we don't, you know. And I having accessed that in various different areas of my life, including parenting and business and friendships and other relationships, you know, I copy paste that across to romantic relationships too. And I say, no, I don't compromise. I don't compromise who I am. I don't compromise what I want. I won't, you know. And anybody who needs to convince me of that is not the person that I'm supposed to be with.
It's lovely to hear you say that. I don't feel like I've done that very well in any of the relationships since then. I think it was probably because I think I did have it actually in that original relationship with the kid's dad. And, you know, we did try to support each other in our own ways. However, I think just the having kids and the different pressures we had, you know, just took on different paths as well. But since then, I think maybe it was because my self-esteem was so rocked. Yeah, and this core idea that maybe I was unlovable or I was going to be abandoned, you know, that I did see that, you know, my unhealthy behaviours was to be the carer, the people pleaser, you know, wanting to be the person, you know, that I thought they wanted me to be, so they wouldn't leave. So yeah, so there's been a lot of looking at myself for that, and I think there is a fear for me that, you know, well, I think, you know, I would rather be single 100%. I think this is why it's a superpower if you can be all right single, because now I know I am full and I'm whole as a single. So I think that means that I can be discerning now. And I just, for me, it's like, I think like the full thing about internet dating and apps and all that sort of thing, I find it, you know, which I have tried, but I think this idea of just like meeting somebody who you don't know, you've got no shared friends in common, just doesn't work for me, you know. And it's like people through a mini breakup for someone who I didn't even know, and I just think actually I want to go back to the old-fashioned method. If I am ever to get with someone, of just like, let's be friends first, you know, let's have a foundation where we're actually friends, and then see if we want to take that like another step forward. I feel for me, the full, it's just too fast. You know, the full dating apps and seeing and meeting people, it, you know, and it just doesn't work for us.
Part of that discernment, I think, is, certainly for me, so I won't speak for you or other women, but for me, has been, I need not to listen to the words that a person says. To observe them with my deeper intelligence, you know, with my whole body knowing, to observe them and then to trust that. You know, something that women are on the back foot with this whole thing, with almost everything in life, is that we were never taught to tune in to our deeper intelligence, which, you know, is the work you and I do in the world, is to help people do that, not just women but people, you know, because it is important for everybody to have that. But then also there's the second layer of actually trusting what you find, you know.
Oh, absolutely, Claire. And I think when I look back, it's been the times that I've ignored that. And the reason I ignore it as well, it's not because I'm not thinking it's because I think, oh, this is me being broken, you know, that I'm feeling this is because I've been cheated on in the past, that I'm being suspicious of them, rather than like, no, actually, I'm just really attuned to what's going on. And when I look back, it's like, no, I was right from the beginning, you know. And I think it is that, like, but it's coming back, like you say, into trust, you know, into ourselves, you know. And people talk about other people gaslighting them, and I think, you know, I've gaslight myself, you know. I'll gaslight myself, like, this person and this relationship will work or it'll change, and it's like, it's not.
That's so powerful. I absolutely love that. You know, any time that people are pointing outwards and sort of labeling other people in relationship dynamics with certain disorders or, you know, certain patterns of behavior, and I just think that, like you say, it's that mirror for us to come back, not to spiritually bypass, you know, the work that we're doing, but to say, actually, I need to be the most intimate with myself first, so that I can trust myself, because that is something, you know, across time I've realized that I wouldn't trust me, you know, because I haven't been a woman of my word in terms of what I'm going to do or not do, you know. And I think if we can come to that work with as little self-judgment as possible and go, okay, everything I do as a human makes absolute sense. Like, it absolutely does. It makes sense, not just purely because I'm a human, but also because of my particular experiences as a human, my particular relationship experiences, and my views of the world, my beliefs about the world. As a result of all of those things, everything I'm doing, thinking, and saying makes absolute sense, but that doesn't mean it can't change.
Yeah. And I think taking that responsibility is what enables the change. It's like, okay, if this is, you know, and I'm not saying this in any way of victim blaming, because obviously we know like really shit things happen, and you know, life's complicated, and I'm not taking away anyone's responsibility or accountability for bad stuff either. But for me, I know it's this, you know, when it was like, okay, I'm choosing an abusive person, people, and then I was given the gift of seeing it's because I hold self-hatred. It's because I hold disgust. So although I was thinking, why am I keep choosing this? I'm thinking these are nice people, and it wasn't. It was, I'm choosing these because, you know, I'm choosing somebody, you know, that I know is going to treat me bad because of how I feel about myself. You know? And it was only when I took that responsibility, I didn't even know how to heal it, but it even just bringing that into consciousness, for me, it's like, I know that's a gift. I know, you know, for all the years I've done of healing and worked with people, that is, even just bringing these things out of the subconscious into the consciousness, that's the change happening.
Yes.
So we can change the story now of taking back our power. It's like, I know that's there, so it can't be operating in the background anymore.
No, it can't just operate under the surface, kind of driving all your behaviors. And yeah, because you literally just need, you know, I've thought of it sometimes like the tip of the iceberg needs to show you what we're actually dealing with, or like in an sort of, you know, coaching sense, I think of it as almost like the handle. Do you know what I mean? So you can manipulate the thing underneath. You're like, okay, I've got it.
Well, yeah, and then don't get us wrong. I mean, even with 30 years of healing experience, it's still not nice. You're like, no, I wanted it to be all them. No.
Why must I hate myself?
Why is it me?
Actually, there's so much power in going into that, like the depths of that as well, you know, just to be like, I feel so sorry for myself.
I'm especially in breathworks, I've been into that. And I think, you know, because there is things like that, we're not allowed to feel sorry for ourselves. Even when we're being through a really difficult time, we're not allowed to admit how needy we are, you know, which we all are. We've all got needs, you know, and it's just like, actually, we're allowed to feel these things and bring them out of the consciousness as well, because these are real human, you know, natural experiences. And if we're, like you say, if we, you know, suppress all these, then they start working in the background as well, you know. It's like, okay, I'll just create these situations where I am the victim, and eventually someone will feel sorry for me too. I've probably got all these going on. I'm seeing the neediness. Somebody will rescue me if I'm in my neediness.
Yeah, and that's the really powerful thing, I think. You know, I'm working with Kasia Baniak just now, and she is very much pointing us at the idea that every time we have a complaint about something in our lives, or a why me, or a, you know, any of that kind of narrative, it's pointing actually us back towards a deeper desire. So that deeper desire might be to be taken care of, which is absolutely within our rights, you know. But she said something which was like, if we try and deny these desires, they don't disappear. And actually, the really powerful thing is we don't get to choose what our desires are. They arise within us. So she's like, you know, what happens when you deny a desire? Does it go away? Oh, no, it turns into all of these behaviors to try and get you what you want in a really subversive, covert kind of way, you know?
Yeah. And I think this is, you know, and this actually even just taking that time to listen and find out what our desires are. Sometimes we don't even know what our desires are because they're so hidden in the background. But unless we take that time to actually, what is my desires? What is it that I actually need in this moment? And listen to that, because I think when we do that, this is what reinforces our self-worth. Like, oh, actually, I'm worth listening to. I'm worth honoring that, you know, and then that repairs, you know, our sense of self. So we're, you know, we're not, like for me, not becoming the person the other person wants. It's like, oh, because we're honoring our own needs, you know, we're honoring our own sense of self-worth and building that up. But the most amazing thing is that we can give that to ourselves more than what anybody else can, you know.
But this is something for single mums particularly, that I just want to, you know, reflect that across the sort of 8-9 years I've been a single mum, tuning into any kind of even basic need, Shakti, do you know what I mean? But and so then let's go as far as desires, you know, just for me in survival mode, bringing up my kids were 9 months and 2.5 when I left their dad. I, I can't even forget, I did definitely almost immediately begin the journey of sort of improving my life. But honestly, it wasn't done from desire. It was done from desperation,
Yeah.
To have something very different from what I'd had, knowing that what I had had was not it, and then trying to figure out ways to, luckily, I found out one of the fundamental things, which was how to tune into myself more deeply. First, and I just stumbled across that knowledge because obviously the universe wanted me to have it. But I would say that it's only in the last really few months that I've actually allowed myself to have like true desires and to start to let my life kind of align with those desires. It's been that longer journey,
And just to acknowledge as well, it's like so hard. It's much easier when they get older, when the kids get older, because when they are, young and, their needs, and as mothers we'll put their needs first, often. But it's like, and it's intense how much they do want. So it does, I just acknowledge my kids are teenagers now. And so it does get a lot easier. But even in the midst of that, even if it's like I need half an hour for a bath, I need to get myself, like you say, the basics, just like sleep. I just need to allow myself to sleep. Like what a difference that could be, and if possible, if you can get help, where it's needed. I've often paid for people to help to tidy my house, so I'm not going to overwhelm and things like that. But it's it's just getting, thinking, well, what do I need? What do I need around me to be able to function, to be able to hold the space for them, to be able to look after myself? And it takes time. It takes time to know what our limitations are, how much we can do without burning out, and how to manage, and navigate it all. But yeah, it's a worthwhile journey though.
It really is. I also just want to really acknowledge, you mentioned it briefly at the beginning, the climate in which women are doing this now is very different from when you and I started out as single mums, because there was working tax credit when we started out. And actually, in terms of you and I suspect, definitely for me, compared to what I had been making as a partnered mum, part-time in employment with 2 small kids and paying most of that towards childcare, actually all of it pretty much, I think most of the time towards childcare. I had a lot more expendable income when I became a single mum than I did as a partnered woman. And it made all the difference in terms of starting a business and having the trust and faith that could work out. I will admit I'm not typically a spreadsheet person, and if I had tried to make my finances at that time work on a spreadsheet, I don't think I would have been able to, but somehow magically it has all worked out, and I have every faith that it will continue to do so. But I really want to acknowledge that, what's happened exists in a kind of patriarchal system where they say a year is long enough for anybody to make it go out of business. And of course, that might be true if you are well-heeled with seed funding from, some family member or, investment from somewhere. I've certainly stood behind guys in queues for coffee and heard them casually talking about, pulling in 20 grand of investment for some crazy idea they've got. But the reality for a lot of single mums, and especially these days, because we are living in austere times and increasingly misogynistic times, is that, women don't feel that they have the support to take those leaps like you and I did, which, in your case and my case, took over 5 years, well on nearly a decade to come to fruition. And I want to normalize that for women in business with children, single mums. I don't know what needs to happen for women to have the climate that they need to make their big work in the world, because you know what you and I bring to the world, you can't put that on a spreadsheet, you know, in terms of the value of it. You can as well now, but not always, you know. And providing, for example, those women's circles that you provided, that I have no doubt helped so many women to raise their own self-esteem, to tune into themselves, to ignite a spiritual understanding of the world. Whatever else it brought to people, they probably still have a felt sense of how important those circles were to them. And I have a bit of a bee in my bonnet at the moment about how we as women can support each other in practical ways, emotional ways, spiritual ways, but also very much like financial and material ways, so that we can grow a network. Because I think we've been duped into thinking that women don't have the resources to make shit happen and to change the world, really, when actually collectively, you know, it might be that I have a van and you have a bit of cash, you know what I mean, or vice versa, or a home that is safe, you know. We as women collectively, we do have the resources to make the world an infinitely better place. And it kind of breaks my heart that women doing the spreadsheet these days would look at the year that they are allocated, you know, even if they've got a toddler, even if they've got 3 kids, even if they're doing all of the childcare, you know, because somebody's left them in the lurch or whatever, and will do that calculation and realize that they have to go into low paid work rather than take a punt on something that's really meaningful to them. And I think I haven't really heard anybody say, you know, the irony is that women in that situation don't have the resources, time, money, or energy to fight to get better treatment, you know. So I think that that's something that we as women, as a collective, also need to raise our voices about, to say, if you had given me a year, I would have been back in low paid employment. My children probably would have been very much the worse off for it. I certainly would have been, and I wouldn't have had this impact on the world that I am having and continue to have, because I had the opportunity to go and train and better myself and do the things that I've done.
Yeah, absolutely, Claire. And I think it doesn't, like you say, it doesn't take into account just the emotional impact of going through a breakup as well, and like all the other skills that I need just to learn from scratch, how to manage a full house, how to look after the kids, or, you know, all by yourself, and how exhausting. I think that was the thing as well. I think nobody told you how hard it is. Nobody told you how absolutely exhausting it was. And I think because so many people do it, it's kind of normalized. And it was just like, just nobody realized how isolating, how hard it is. And you know, and it's the thing as well, it's like, you know, you see the minimum income wage goes up, and then you're just like, but if you're on, you know, you know, universal credit, that just means, oh, I've got the pressure of earning more before, otherwise I'm not going to get my benefits after that, you know. So it's like, I think for me, it's about every month I've got to earn at least £1,650, you know, because you know, after a certain age, the kids, you've got to be able to work, you know, 30 hours a week, and it's yeah, and like you say, it doesn't take account of any other, you know, the situations that your children might be going through, or the other family things. And it's just like, you know, that's a you know, a big thing to have to build up, you know, right from scratch in a year. To get that is every month, that's my stable income now. And like you say, if you're just learning all business skills from scratch, if you know, and all the other things, it's like, it's you know, there's so many different things you've got to learn when we're running a business. It's not like, even if I was just doing healing, it's not like I'm just going and, you know, doing the energy healing. It's like, okay, you've got to do your advertising, you've got to do your promotion, you've got to do your bookkeeping, you've got to learn how to write copy, how to build websites, you know, and it's all the other. So, and now as well, it's like all the social media, you've got to be on all these different social medias to get yourself out there, so people know about you. So it's not just about, you know, doing that. It would be great if it was, you know, well, for some people would love that, but you know, it's all the other stuff that go with it, and it's only that 1 hour that produces some income. So it's, you know, and it's understanding even like different business models. You know, I've tried memberships, I've tried training programs, I've tried working one-to-one sessions, workshops, you know, and finding a business model as well that fits in with your life, but also learning, you know, it's like this is 10 years of learning about business, of working with different coaches, and trying different things into finding out, you know, what works. What works.
And the investment that's been, you know.
And they're paying for coaches, and it's like it's all, you know, and for all the support that I've needed around, like I say, like paying for people to help tidy the house, paying for, you know, energy healing, ongoing healing work for me, and in trainings, you know, and it's like, okay, you know, okay, I can offer this, but it's just like there's a lot of investment that's needed into that. But like I say, I'm really grateful for the opportunity. I'm grateful that I'm doing this work, but at the same time, it's just that really, like you say, just recognizing that like there needs to be something to really support, especially single mothers. I can understand that you know, that it's the same system whether you've got kids or you're not. Just doesn't seem fair in a way, you know. It's because there's just a lot more. You're already tired. You're already tired, and you know, and it just takes a lot of energy to start a business. It's so worth it though. It's so worth, you know, bringing your skills to the world, and you know, and trusting, okay, this is your time, that purpose. And I think, you know, there are, like, even if you haven't got much money, there are free support networks, and I think that getting yourself around positive communities, positive communities of growth, of it, where you're celebrated, you know, where your small wins are celebrated, you know, it's like
people who believe in that journey and that it's worthwhile, because there will always be, and still are, you know, people who will say, wouldn't it just be easier to get a job? You know, wouldn't it just be easier? And they mean it with all the love in the world. But there's something about this journey that will speak to, you know, if a woman's listening and this isn't speaking to her, that's fine. That's absolutely perfect for her. But there will be women that this speaks to. Certainly, you know, podcasts have been a big part of sparking what's possible for me. You know, I'll hear something and I'll think, do you know what? I just wonder. And actually, on that note, even last year, I received £7,000 worth of funding for a new website, marketing help around the kind of corporate side of my business, and you know, a whole project basically on that I wouldn't otherwise have been able to invest in. And there is so much funding really actually out there, because we hear so much about lack of money, but if you're quite specific in what it is that you want to do, and or you're helping, for example, a particular cohort of people in the world, you know, there are funding pots available for almost everything you could think of to do. And that's one way that we can shore up the other sacrifices that we're having to make, you know, in terms of income, is by getting these pots of money and using them for specific parts of our business, even if it's for our own training or you know, building skills or whatever. So there's free help, there's funding. Don't let anybody tell you any different, you know, just go looking, get in touch with something like Business Gateway in your area, and they have all sorts of things coming up, you know, and as well.
Business Factory in where I was, that really supported me at the beginning, and got little bits of funding. And you know, and it's like, even if it was just business cards and things like that, but you know, at the time that you know, I probably didn't even give them out, but there was something about getting that made me feel professional, you know. It made me feel like what I was doing was real. And what I would say as well is, don't let the thing put you off track. Don't think, oh, I've only got a year, it's not going to work within a year. Still give it your everything, you know. And I think there is things that they will, if you know, let you restart again, you know, some people will let you do that, because I know I've had one horrible lady who was just like, no, if you're not doing it, that's tough. But then I got a new person and she was like, oh, if you ever need to go back on and have another year, we can sign you off and on. So I think there are options, so make sure that you do, you know, your rights, but don't let the system stop you from really tuning in and stepping into your dreams, you know, start to grow. If you're starting from scratch and you've got a space, you've got this real blank book, you know, untended lawn, it's like, what seeds are you going to plant there? What seeds are you going to plant? Because I would have never, ever in a million years thought that, you know, I would have been teaching online, leading, you know, there was one workshop that I led that was like breathing with a person from every continent on the planet.
Wow.
You know, it just absolutely blows my mind. Like I'd never even done a selfie before lockdown, you know, I was so scared of being seen and like, yeah, I just, you know, what you think is possible for yourself is probably a fraction of what actually is, you know, and it's, but all you need to know is the next step as well. Don't, you know, just follow the next most obvious step, you know, and then just after that, then one will appear. We don't have to know the big picture. We can have a dream, but then just, you know, follow one step at a time, and yeah, and just taking care of yourself in the process as well.
One of the reasons that I retrained in neurolinguistic programming and became a coach with that as the kind of primary modality that I use with people is because, just like you've just said, in the before times, I had this tiny little idea of what could be possible. And NLP training, which I kind of stumbled upon by accident, I've often said it felt like I was kind of led by the hand to the edge of my current thinking and encouraged to kick the door open. And then it was like the whole universe was out there. Do you know what I mean? And I just suddenly was like almost overwhelmed with possibilities about how life could look and what could happen for me, you know?
Yeah, no, I think for me it was the breathwork training, and I think especially like retraining my nervous system for safety, you know, like with the slower breathing practices came a bit later, but to start with, it was the conscious connected breath work. So we're going into an altered state to clear, you know, and reprogram what is held in our body, but also in that learning about the window of tolerance to stress, because I used to suffer from bad anxiety. I used to go out there and have to hide away, and it was like realizing that this isn't because I'm broken, because bad things happened in the past. This is because, well, I have a different tolerance to stress and I'm just dysregulated because I've stepped out of it a little bit. And for me, that reframe was so powerful. It was just like, okay, I just need to know my limitations and I've got practices now. I can do some slow breathing. I can, you know, take a bath, have a weighted blanket, whatever it is, to just look after myself. So it was these foundational skills which I was never given, of just like a knowledge about how I work physically, you know, as a, you know, and so for me it was this, it was the nervous system piece. I think more than anything, and you know, for anyone who doesn't know, I know you know, Claire, it's like the nervous system actually responds faster than the rational brain does. So it's like, because it keeps us safe, it's, you know, evolved to keep us alive for, you know, millions of years, and you know, so but it's programmed from, you know, old experiences and, you know, traumas, and sometimes things from you know, ancestral wounds as well. So they're not always relevant in this time. So there was probably a space, you know, where we weren't safe as women, we weren't safe as single women, you know, to be out there in the world in the past, you know, would be burnt as witches, I'm sure we were, Claire. But now it's like, okay, that story, you know, isn't needed anymore, you know, and it is safe for me to be seen. Okay, I might sometimes get a bit of abuse on Facebook, you know, if I'm put in front of the wrong audience, but that doesn't have to collapse me. You know, I might just need a bit of time off. I might need to lean into a friend, but that doesn't actually collapse me and stop me from, you know, Shakti Tracey out there in the world and bringing it. You know, and I think it's that thing as well. It's like, because I've done a lot of work on repairing this core sense of self by honouring my needs, my worths, and listen to this, I actually believe what I'm bringing is important. You know, I believe that the love that I'm sharing, you know, the global love revolution. I know you're having your own revolution, Claire, and you know, it's like, okay, this is the medicine that the world needs at this time. You know, and even if I'm a little voice on Facebook, you know, to me, all these little voices matter, you know, and I think we're both passionate about this, and this is why we're so passionate about empowering other people to find their voices as well, because, you know, there's so many people, women, you know, men, non-binary people in the world who are really speaking into that truth and into that love. And, you know, there's so many of us, it's going to shift the planet's vibration. And yeah, in just, you know, I really do believe like in the social shift that's happening. And I believe in like all the stuff that's coming to light at the moment is part of that. Like this stuff has been going on for years, but now it's coming to the light. Like I said right at the beginning, whether that's a collective thing or it's a personal thing, this is what's needed for healing to happen. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. And that's the shift, you know, already happening. So yeah, I really do trust the process with that as well.
Yeah, you have to trust the process.
Yeah, the revolution is happening, Claire. It is already
It is. Yeah. And we've been some part in planting the seed of that, I think.
Absolutely. And I think the biggest part is, you know, it's not even the teaching, it's not even out there, it's this being responsible for our own healing, you know, just to go back to that. And I'm such a believer, and I bring that into all my workshops and sessions as well. It's like when we do this work, it isn't just for ourselves, you know, this is medicine for the planet, because, you know, we are an expression of earth energy. So when we do this healing on ourselves, that healing does go into, I believe, well, I've seen it as well, it goes into the planetary grid. Like healing sessions that I did like 30 years ago used to take a lot longer than they do now. People are moving through things faster, and there's a quickening up. And I think this is because of, you know, the healing work that we have been doing. Yeah, and you know, and I think we are the medicine for the planet. You know, it's like you know, we can embody that by bringing that within ourselves and how we live. You know, kindness, changer. Just be kind. Everyone, just be kind.
Yeah, it's so interesting. You know, women are so naturally tend towards that kindness that I always think it's kind of ironic that there's all this the kind of be kind movement. And I think, you know, for the women I work with anyway, they've been being kind. They've been being so kind. Sometimes they're being really kind without anybody necessarily really having been that kind to them, you know, especially maybe when they were growing up. And I think it speaks to this natural tendency for that kindness to come through. You know, I tend to think that everybody deep down is a good person, you know, and that it's various things like trauma that lead them to do what we would think of as like bad things, that we then label them as bad people. But
I totally hear you, and I think the kindest thing you need to do is draw those strong boundaries with people. The kindest thing can be the energy of fuck off. You know what I mean? That is a real kindness, because you're giving an honesty, you're giving a truth. We don't have to go into violence, we don't have to, you know, self-defense, but it is, you know, but the true kindness, it has to start with, well, right, is this being kind to me? Because if you're being kind to somebody else and then you're using your back, that isn't kindness.
Resentment.
It's a reciprocal relationship, you know. Talking ideally, but I'm not saying like any woman should be have this out of balance, you know, because then it isn't kindness, it's an abuse of yourself and your needs.
You know, I've often kind of traced it back to a fundamental lack of self-worth.
Yeah, of course.
Because it's, you know, being kind is kind of trying to convince the world I'm a good person, and we don't need to convince the world that we're a good person, because we are all good people.
It's an interesting one, because obviously, you know, it like can be the trauma response of fawning, of people pleasing. And I think it's an interesting one even to recognize and to look at within ourselves, because there can be that genuine, like, no, actually, I do want to make a positive difference in the world, as well as like I want to be liked by people in the world. And you know, so I don't necessarily say it's bad, but it gets bad when it comes at the sacrifice of, you know, of yourself,
your well-being,
and the damage to yourself. And it's like, it's got to start, the kindness has got to start by, you know, looking at the way we talk to ourselves, you know, looking at the way that we treat ourselves, you know, and I think that also sets the standards, how we'll let other people treat us. You know, like I was saying at the beginning, you know, and I did, you know, and it's like, you know, kindness has been for me in relationships of a way of, you know, if I do everything for them, then they'll not leave, you know, it's like, okay, it wasn't healthy situation, you know, and it, you know, comes that codependency, and I've seen it, I've gotten that out of balance with my work as well. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, freebie queen, and, you know, well, I had a membership once in lockdown. I started a membership and I had 40 people sign up and they were all paying £40 a month, which was like the most money I'd ever earned in my life. But I hadn't learned how to hold that much money, and I felt really guilty when people wouldn't, because it was a membership and people were paying us and they weren't even turning up for workshops.
Right.
I felt guilty because it was lockdown and I knew some people weren't working, so I felt responsible for, you know, I was earning, I was like the best off I've ever been, and like everybody else was losing the job, so I felt like a lot of guilt over that. And so I ended up, for no reason, nobody had asked this, but like I reduced it to half price, and then I made it free. Phew, all of a sudden my nervous system, I'm a good person again, you know. And then I make it free and everybody will help to share it, and it'll grow it, and it'll become this global thing as well. So I did have, you know, visualize, but obviously that didn't happen because people have got their own lives, and actually because people weren't financially committing to it, they didn't value it as much as well. So it was really good lessons for me though, of like, okay, you know, and this is what inspired me to create the money training as well, because it's like, okay, even when money comes along, I can't hold it because of the issues that, you know, around my own self-worth, and like you say, this wanting to overgive was out of balance, you know, wanting to be liked by everybody, you know, was out of balance. And because the lessons that I had been told about money, especially working in spirituality, working in well-being, you know, I think as women we're often supposed to speak, and I have been challenged, and I don't know any man who's been challenged on this as well, about charging for services, like, you know, that this should be free, you know. You know, otherwise it's not as real, it's not as an integrity, whereas the opposite's actually true. You're not an integrity. Like, it should not, and I think it's got better a lot now as well, but it should not be questionable, you know, that we are allowed to make a, you know, a sustainable, you know, income when we're not worrying, when we're, you know, we're working so hard and we're trained so hard and we're bringing so much goodness and transformation to the world. But this is, I think it's definitely a female thing as well. Like,
for sure.
And often comes, unfortunately, because of the relationship. Like for me, it came up with men who felt like they should be able to get everything for free.
That's interesting. Yeah, I because I've pretty much primarily worked with women in my own, when it's been me and my business. When I was contracted to another organization, I worked primarily with men, but the people who are drawn to work with me are almost exclusively women. And there will sometimes be people who bring that kind of energy, and I tend to think it's almost like the sister wound or the mother wound. It's kind of, you want this nurturing and love and holding for free because you didn't receive it when you should have, and it should have been free and free flowing. And I totally get that, but it's not my work in the world to heal that wound in that way. The way that I help with that is the self-worth, that you are, you know, absolutely worthy of everything that you could possibly desire. But not to work with me for free, because I deeply, deeply value the work that I do and understand its importance and value. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, it's like I do still try to offer like a mix of some free group things, and you know, because my programs are like quite expensive, but it's just getting that balance between it, and, you know, and like say, like working on like, okay, this is the balance between that. And it has been, you know, the pricing, it's been a journey in itself to get a way that feels right for them. And sometimes I do think, but I do enjoy, because I do enjoy the free things as well. For me, it is a easiness. You know, there's no pressure, because I think, oh, well, if I do terrible, this is my low self-esteem still. If I do terrible, nobody's going to be bothered because I haven't paid for it, you know what I mean? So, you know, but I do like, I think it's part of like my ethics of just like, okay, I am giving something. So I sometimes do free workshops and things, but at the same time, you know, I know it's like I've got to charge, you know, and I do charge for the breathwork training, I charge for my money power training, and Yeah, but like us, you know,
Yeah.
just working out what's our way of working, you know, what's the
I honestly think the thing is, it doesn't have to mean anything. Do you know what I mean? I've got lots of free guides,
yeah,
and I don't have any negative energy towards somebody getting just that free guide, getting some benefit from it, and never ever paying me a penny. You know, there's zero negative energy around that. It's like,
yeah,
you know, there are incredible people. I've just read their book and I've got so much from their book, which it, you know, no matter who they are, Glennon Doyle or so, it's not like I've ever bought a program, or I don't even know if she runs them. Do you know what I mean? Or like, we put our work out in the world in a variety of different ways as access points to the messaging that we are here to bring, you know,
yeah.
and no matter how people access that. And I know you are in the process of writing a book, or
Well, I'm trying. I
yeah.
was actually up till 22 by accident last night. I've just suddenly got into it, like rewriting my my book proposal.
Amazing.
Yeah, money intimacy, actually. So it is about how we can change our relationship with money by seeing it as a lover. So it brings together all my relationship learning.
Yeah.
And money learning, actually, because I've realized it's the same patterns, and that's been like the mind-blowing thing for me. It's like, oh my God, no, we've got a money attachment style, we've got money love languages, our nervous system can only hold so much, you know. And actually what I found is the most amazing thing about money is it's not like a human who's got its own issues. Money can only ever mirror what I've got going on. So it's
I hadn't thought of it like that.
oh, so this is like from run the money power thing that you just say. It's like, oh my goodness, so I can build up my capacity to, you know, to hold more, to love more, to value. So I'm, you know, we can, you know, work on this core sense of self or self-worth, you know, clear all the patterns. And it's just like, this is transforming my love relationships as well. It's yeah, so powerful. And yeah, but it is all the same thing. So yeah, that's what my book proposal is about. And I failed at this so many times as well, but it's evolved. And I really fixated that I want to get it published by Hay House.
Okay.
That's in alignment with my plan. I don't want it just to be another thing of having to launch and things. That's with my plan of the global love revolution. So yeah, so I'm going to
so we're manifesting
resubmit until.
So one of the things I know about Hay House is that you have to have a certain following online. So that might be some.
No, actually, if you join the membership, they don't look at your numbers. So this is where I'm going down that path. So that I'm going down the competition path. So they don't look at how many followers you've got. Otherwise, most of the big companies, publishing companies now, that if it's not in, like, you know, otherwise it is like based on your following more than actually what your book's about. Because obviously you've got a ready-made audience there ready to sell. One of the reasons because I haven't, and I went to the UK, the London conference, and I asked about that because I thought, well, maybe I could grow my followers to like 10,000. Which seemed like massive to me from 2,000 or whatever. And they were like, oh, you know, then the minimum that they would hire outside the competition is 100,000, and that would be a small amount for them. So it was just like, oh right, that's out of my range, really, absolutely, at the minute. And I can't even conceive how I would grow that without any, you know, financial money. So yeah, I've rejoined the membership though, and they have like a couple of competitions.
Amazing, good.
Yes, I'm going to keep at it, and I will get there.
And it's like you said earlier, you just need to know the next step in front of you.
And yeah, and one of the biggest things I've learned about being in all these business communities, and what I've seen from people again and again, you know, that definitely take on board if you're a single mom, it's is the people who succeed are the people who get up after failure, you know. And I've just see it again and again. It's like, don't give up because you fail the first time, you know, and it's the people who are like, okay, dust yourself off, that, like, even that freebie, I got 3 people at my free thing, they won't even pay for that. I've had no signed ups at some of my free things before, you know. And it's you know, but then picking yourself up and keeping going and still believing in yourself and what you bring in, because it's just finding, you know, your audience, your people, your purpose. You being here on the planet is so needed at the time, and to not take a bit of time out if you need to recover, you know, lean into people. Do not give up on your dream.
One of the things that I've tuned into and sort of had a bit of resistance to is this idea in the business community and in entrepreneurial world especially is fail fast, fail forward. But like you just said, sometimes I think for single mums, certainly for me, it's been like fail, take a bit of time to take care of yourself, because we don't always, you know, sometimes it's fail, deal with your children's snotty nose.
Tidy the house because you worked so hard at this thing you failed on. Yeah, everything's went.
I know, right? You know, feed everybody a turkey twizzler dinner. You know, try and get a little bit of rest. Build yourself up to the next thing that you're going to try and launch. But that, like, to just acknowledge the amount of energy it takes to do all of the other stuff in the middle when you're not somebody who has your entirely black outfit laid out to get up at 5 a.m. and that's the only thing you're going to do today is go to the gym for 3 hours, then work on your business, then, you know, eat a nutritious meal that's very expensive, prepared probably by somebody else, and then smash your business goals. Get a good night's
sleep. Claire, it's coming one day.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm not rolling that out for us. Apart from the entirely black outfit, I'm not ruling that out for us. But what I'm saying is, like, you know, when you listen to those bro podcasts and some of the stuff sort of turns you off, I really would have people listen to us and to say, if your journey looks like this, it is still entirely legitimate, valid, and so valuable to keep going and keep doing this, because I know
we will learn along the way and we'll get better, and even like just even using my book proposal again as an example, like the first failure from a book proposal, that was what I created this Reclaim Your Money Power program on. So I've already, you know, made more money than I would have if I'd won the competition. And then from you know, from running that, then I did, you know, a new book proposal. That was like what I learned about this relationships and money and how it entwined beyond. I thought this is the best. I thought, right, this time definitely going to win. I you know, I even got a book coach for accountability, and I'm going to give this everything 100%. I even got on the microphone at Hay House in London, even though I was shaking, just to ask a question. I have to be seen, you know, and everything I give it. And then I failed again and it absolutely floored us. I just said, oh, I'm just going to give up. And then I got the feedback and it was absolutely amazing. They just loved the concept. They loved the idea. They just thought everything was just so good, how I'd framed it. I just went a bit too esoteric, they said in the final chapter, was about divine union, and says it just needs a bit more grounding or some more, and I could say that because I went from like relationship theories to like which is easy for me to do, but yeah, so it was really good advice, you know, for the so it's like, actually I'm going to try again, because I was so much, and this is the thing as well, like maybe you're just much closer than what you think, you know, maybe, you know, and I think this thing is as well, I know I'm in more of a chance of winning by entering than by not, you know. You know, there's like, I think there was 120 entries at that last competition, and you know, that's like a really small amount for, you know what I mean, you know, and to get that in front of those authors, to get that really positive feedback, it's like, okay,
that's so cool.
Work on that, and yeah, eventually we'll get there. So hopefully I can get invited back onto your podcast to talk about my launch, Claire.
Yes, amazing.
Update.
Amazing. And that's really inspiring to hear. And I absolutely love, you know, that you're sharing while you're in the thick of the, you know, the failure on to the next failure, and then, you know.
And I'll just say as well, I had to take that time out, and I think that's why I mentioned it as well. It's because I was done. I'd given it everything, you know, and then it was like fail, and it was just like what, and I had to take that time out, you know. And it's now, you know, 3 months late, and it's like, okay, I'm finding the fire back again. I'm ready to give this, you know, and let's see where we can go with it. So.
Amazing. So when I asked you in the sort of prep for the show what success was to you as a single mum, you said having 2 kids who know they're loved and have the confidence to be themselves in the world, and you having the confidence to be you in the world is the best way to guide this. So I want to kind of finish on that note and just to thank you so much for turning up, not just today, but in the world so fully as yourself, which gives not only your kids the permission to do that, but also, you know, I've worked with you quite closely and we've been on that journey together as well for quite a while now. And it's just absolutely beautiful to know you, to witness you in your journey, and to have you standing up and standing out, speaking out for people generally, yes, but also for the single mums of the world.
Absolutely. And I just say it as well to any single mums is don't think you have to be anyone apart from yourself. Don't think you have to fit into a certain model of what success looks like, because if you can just be yourself, like, you're winning, you know, you're absolutely winning. You're being the person you are born to be, and that is success as well. So, and I think that journey of being a single mum is finding that, is you get to find that out, and that's why it's so amazing. It's like when you get it, you're just like, wow. Like, literally, aren't I amazing? Aren't you amazing, Claire?
Yeah.
How did I not know this?
That is the freedom. You know, I often have to hold myself back from saying congratulations when people tell me that they've become a single mum, because I just think, you know, you just don't know the journey that you're probably about to go on. Hopefully, you know, if we can, instead of kind of clamming up, we can open up to what's possible. So
yeah, I remember I went through a little phase a little while back as well. I'd wake up in bed in the morning and I would think, and I would feel like I was in love with somebody, and I would try to, my head racing to think, oh, who have I got a crush on? And I realised, oh no, I'm in love with me. Wow. It's just me.
I've just got that loved up feeling. I love that. I'm going to do that tomorrow morning on purpose, and then hopefully it'll come to me too. Fabulous. Thank you so much for your time today. And for anybody listening, I hope that you've taken this thread from this journey, from this conversation, which is that while you're on your journey, you put one foot in front of the other. You only need to know the next step, and you just carry on exactly as you're supposed to, as who you are.
Yeah, just be yourself and just try to enjoy the journey, you know, try to enjoy the journey. And, you know, even if it is tough, I think that, you know, especially as a mom, you know, that is the journey as well, isn't it? So allowing that to be the priority.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Claire.
Bye.